All right, let's just jump right in and kind of talk a little bit about first sublimation, and then what we're going to make today. So, sublimation is I always use the term special. It's a special way to print. You definitely need a sublimation printer. I have the Sawgrass SG500 here, which is a sublimation printer. Sawgrass is a sublimation company. So everything that you have from Sawgrass, from your inks to your paper, those are all special inks and special papers that work with your special printer. You won't be able to print regular with your regular home laser printer or a copy printer sublimation. So you definitely have to have a printer with dedicated ink and dedicated paper for sublimation that is designed specifically for sublimation. So why is that? Sublimation is a chemical process. The ink is printed on your paper and the ink sits on the top of the paper. So it doesn't absorb down into the paper. It sits on the top of the paper. Now, your ink doesn't smear or smudge, so you can run your hand over it and it's not going to smear or smudge, but that ink is just kind of sitting on the top of the sublimation paper. With your heat press, either I'm going to be using my bigger heat press today, but you can use an easy press to heat up the sublimation paper onto a sublimation blank. Now, you can't, again, you have to have a special type of blank, because you can't just use any type of blank. So the metal blank I'm using today, we're going to be making a wind spinner. Let me get this up here. So this is the wind spinner. Now I left this together, but these side pieces spread apart and then your design will spin. So we're going to be making one of these. Now this is a metal wind spinner that is designed specifically for sublimation. It will say on the packaging that it is a sublimation wind spinner. Why is that important? That's important because your blank that you're using has to either have a polyester coating that is designed for sublimation. So sublimation, you've used your special printer with your special ink on your special paper. When you use your heat press process with your blank that is designed for sublimation, the surface of that opens up and the ink is then absorbed into the blank. So when you're working with sublimation, you can't feel it. There's nothing to feel on the surface. It is basically dyeing the surface that you're working on. So for this example here, this happens to be a metal example, but you would also do the same process with fabric. So if you're using fabric, you need to be using 100% polyester. That polyester fiber opens up for the sublimation when it's heated, and that transfer happens onto the polyester. That ink just really absorbs into the polyester. So what happens if you're using something that is 100% cotton? So if you're using your print out of your sublimation printer on something that is 100% cotton, it will transfer, but it will be very dull. And so you won't get that vibrant, permanent color like you do with regular sublimation on polyester. If you're using something that's a 50-50 blend polyester cotton, 50% of the color will transfer onto that 50-50. But again, it won't be the vibrant, it's not going to be the 100% coverage. So when you're looking for your sublimation materials, and let's see, you always want to look for something that's either marked as ready for sublimation or a material that is 100% polyester. Now that Michaels has fabric, they do have different 100% polyester fabrics that you can buy by the yard and make a design. And I had this over here. Sorry, let me go grab my design. I made this for my daughter, I think 2 years ago, this garden flag, and I purchased this is actually a shower curtain. It's 100% polyester shower curtain that I did sublimation on to make my own garden flag. I couldn't find the garden flag that I wanted at the time. Now Michael's has garden flags, so I could just buy the ready-made garden flag, but I just got this one. It doesn't fray because it was polyester, and the material of it. So all I had to do was stitch a channel on the top of it. So if you don't see the blank design that you want, you can make your own designs just using 100% polyester fabric. All right. So if you have questions about that process, please do drop them in the Q&A and we can kind of come back and talk about those different, any questions you might have. With your Sawgrass, you have their website, which has the design software on their website. We're going to jump into that. I'm going to show you how easy it is to find and print a design for your blank. And then we'll talk about Sawgrass utility, the print utility, which is what you use to print off your design. I do have a lot of my designs pre-printed just for ease of going through. So but we will show you I'll show you how to print some designs off. Okay, so the first one we're going to start with is this adorable spring towel. Now, this is the waffle towel that's available at Michael's. It's a nice big towel. I think it's like 16 inches by 24 inches. So it's a nice big towel. And how perfect when you've gone out in the garden, either you can use this as a liner for your garden basket, or specifically to wash your hands off after you've been out in the garden gardening. If you're looking for a cute gift for somebody, this would make an adorable a gift accessory to put in a basket. Or if you're gifting for somebody who's a gardener, you can put a cute little garden design on the front of this. So let's go ahead. I'll share my screen and we'll jump into the website here. And this is the Sawgrass website where we just hop on over. You do need to have an account, but using this software does not cost anything. So you can use the account, set up your account, go ahead and go in. Now, you pick your item that you're making. So for example, if I were making a mug, I could just pick a mug. You can also just pick a blank sheet, which is a lot of times what I like to do, so that I can just kind of have a little bit more flexibility. And Felicia, if you want to go ahead and let somebody ask a question live, please feel free. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this blank 11 by 8.5 sheet. Oops, no, I don't want 11 by 8.5. I want 8.5 by 11. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this blank 8.5 by 11 template. And then from here, I'm going to go into the design section and select a design that's already done. So I can just click on designs, and these are completed designs that are ready to go. So you can just start scrolling down and you'll see all kinds of different designs, different images. So depending on what you're working on or who you're working for, you can select a different design that you want. So we're going to go ahead down to, I think I did a search for welcome or hello, just to kind of narrow my ideas down. And then I'll just apply that to this blank page, resize it to the size that I want. So I did go ahead and measure my cloth here. It does take a minute to load. So we're going to go ahead and give that just a minute to load. So
Hey,
we've got
Kristen,
yes.
and while you're doing that, do you want Tamara to go ahead and ask her question?
Yeah, why not?
Tamara, go ahead and unmute yourself. You should be able to do so. Tamara, I may be mispronouncing it. I apologize.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so you can just come on in here. This is what I did. I came on in here and I found, where is that little, there was a cute, now I can't find it again, of course, the little Hello Spring sign I used. But we're just going to grab a design and I can show you how that will apply to the template. If you don't want to have a color in the background, you can simply remove that background color. And then you have welcome to our hive. I just always like to select it all and get an idea for how big it's going to be, if I need to make it smaller or not. And then when you're ready, we'll just go ahead and print that design. Now, when I send this over to print, it will show up in the print utility. So I'm going to stop share here and I'll open up the print utility so you can see what that looks like. So here's our print utility. And let me just I'm going to skip back a little bit and find the job I did. Here we go. So this was the one that I was going to use, the Hello Spring design here. When you're in your print utility, you really don't have to do that much or change that many things in the print utility. Your design will come in. It will tell you what size paper you're printing on, and then you'll choose what you're printing onto. So for example, if you're printing onto, say, that metal wind spinner, you'd want to select the metal option. Since we're using a polyester, I'm just going to choose the polyester t-shirt. And my color management, I want that to be a vivid color or custom color if I want to pump it up a little bit more. If I were adding a photo, I would add photograph. And then that's all I have to do. And I hit print and it's ready to go. And I print that design out. Now on the back of your packaging, and I must have set my packaging aside, it will tell you what settings you need for your heat press to press your item. So my heat press, I need to set at 380 degrees for 60 seconds. So I'm just going to increase that a little bit and go up to 60 seconds. And that's going to heat up. While that's heating up, I will get my blank ready to print. So let me just move a few things aside here. And I'll show you what I mean by getting my item ready to print. So with my design, I've gone ahead and printed out my design here, Hello Spring, and it's centered on my page. So to find the center of my design, I can just sort of turn my paper over and mark it on each side to find the center of the design. Now, once you've found the center of your design, you need to find the center of your material or your blank, whatever you're putting it on. What I like to do is take my garment and line it up. You always want to do a quick pre-press for about 10 seconds, and that removes any moisture in your material. So while my heat press is heating up, I just kind of can take this right over and give it a nice little 20-second press or so and heat that up. And that you want to get rid of any moisture in your garment because that moisture will prevent your image from transferring at a really clean rate. And then I'm going to give myself a clean, what's this thing called? My lint roller here. Well, I'll give myself a clean piece on my lint roller. And the reason we're going to lint roll our material is I want to make sure that there is nothing between my material and my print. So I'm just going to take my lint roller here and rub it down. So if there were like a little dog hair or cat hair on my material, the image, the color would transfer to that little piece of lint. And then you'd have a little line in your design. So you want to give yourself a nice lint roller and clean that right off with your lint roller. Now we can take our design and put it on our blank here. You can do one of two things at this point. Some people like to feather the edge of their design so you don't have a harsh line at the edge, but I find over time that if I do iron a line in, it comes out after I've washed it. So I'm not going to do the feathering. And I'm pretty happy with that distance from the bottom up and the top there. So I'll just turn it over. I can see where my half line is, right? It's very light, but we can see where our half line is. If you want to, you just give it another press so you guys can see where that is. Let me just push that down. I'm just going to take it over to my machine and give it one more press here to make sure I have it nice and visible for you guys and for me. This is my benefit too. So we'll just press that down one more second and give a nice press there. Now, the great thing about sublimation that's different than, say, using iron-on vinyl or something else is it really does become one with your garment. So you can wash and wash and wash and wash. You'll lose this towel in the garden or to, old use of the towel of a wrinkle in your towel or a tear in your towel before the design would go away. So with your sublimation, it really does become one with your towel. Now I'm just going to use, I have a dispenser here with heat-proof tape. You do not want to use just regular tape. You need to use heat-proof tape. That means it can withstand this really high temperature and come right off. It won't melt onto your material. So I'm going to tape that into position. One of the reasons why I tape my design into position is I don't want my design to shift at all in the press. And I don't want it to, when it's done, I don't want it to shift. That can create a ghosting in your design, and you don't want that to happen. You want to just have a nice, clean, sharp lines as much as possible. And doing that taping will help with that. So I'll come back over to my machine. It's almost at 380 degrees. I'm at 321 degrees. So as that continues to heat up, I'm putting a piece of butcher paper down on my pad. So if you're using an easy press, you want to put a piece of butcher paper down. You want to use butcher paper instead of, say, parchment paper. The butcher paper doesn't have any chemicals that it releases when it gets hot. So you put your butcher paper down. If any of your color transfers through the fabric, that butcher paper is going to catch that color, so it won't discolor your mat. My mat's gotten discolored just from the hot heat I used, the hot temperatures. But you'll position that right in there and just make sure everything's nice and smooth. And then we can put our top piece on top of that. And that will make it so that if any color transfers through the top of your paper, it won't transfer onto your iron, your heat surface. It would just transfer onto your butcher paper. This is important because if you transfer your design onto your heat surface, the next time you go to use that, you could transfer a bit of your design through that. So just to review, a couple things you need to have: your lint roller, your heat tape, and then butcher paper. But you see, we're not taking any time to weed anything or take anything out. We didn't have to go through a machine to cut out the design and then layer a whole bunch of different colors. I can just print this out and put it right in. Okay, we're almost there. So I've got 8 seconds left. One other thing, when you're doing a heat transfer, it's just like if you're using vinyl where you want your design mirrored. So the Sawgrass print utility already does the mirroring for you. So it will automatically mirror your design when you send it through the print utility. You don't even have to think about it and remember to do it. It automatically does it for you. It's coming, it's coming. It's got 6 more seconds. One other common question I get when I'm doing sublimation is there an odor to it? When I'm doing t-shirts and things like that, I've never really noticed an odor or any scent coming off of it. when I do something that is at a higher temperature for a longer period of time, sometimes you can get a little bit of a chemical odor, and then you can just open a window. If you're working by a window space, you can just open up your window so you don't have any of that fumes coming off. But for something like this, it's at a little bit lower temperature. I've never really noticed an odor coming off or had a headache afterwards. So I find so that's a good thing that I don't have that problem. One other question I get is, how long will a print last? So if I print this today, but I don't put it on my design until next week, will it last? And the answer is yes, it absolutely will last. I can put them back in the box and just leave it there until I need it and just let it set there. Okay, we're at 380 degrees for 60 seconds. And I'm just going to slide my drawer in. I'll hold up my edge here. We're just going to slide that drawer in and press that down. So all the work with this press automatically happens. I don't have to hold my easy press on it or anything like that. Everything will just happen magically, as if by magic right there. So that's a great thing. Now, our next two designs, while that's kind of heating up, let's talk about our next design. Make Market has this really cute garden flag, and I've printed off my design already. It's a little bit bigger. The garden flag is 12 inches by 18 inches. So you could use legal size paper and print out your design. But if you don't have legal size paper, maybe you just have copy size paper. So I went ahead and printed out my design. My little dog will go on it, and then the welcome sign here will go on it. Since the welcome sign is a little bit bigger, I will go ahead and trim that down to fit over the design. Before I do that, I do want to mark my center space. Okay, and I'm just going to slide this over and let it cool off for a minute. Actually, I'll just pull it out. We'll let that cool off for a minute, and then I can show you. I don't know if you can see it here, the light. I'll leave that there. We'll see. It did come through. See how the design came through a little bit on the butcher paper? Once it's come through on the butcher paper like that, we'll just go ahead and replace that butcher paper and not use that piece again, because we don't want that to transfer onto another design. But let's go ahead and peel off our design here. Look at how cute is that. So this was the original. You can see the little waffling in that pattern. And then this is how it came off. Now, I did do a little something different. Same design and everything on my original here. I wanted it to be a little bit more poppy. So I increased the vibrancy on my print in the Sawgrass print utility. I increased this by 25% vibrance. So you can see the difference between the left one, which was the original, and the right one where I pumped up my vibrancy a little bit. It doesn't change it, like it's not going, like this one's not going to fade to this because they just don't fade. But this is what it will look like in the end. Like this is how I pumped it up a little bit and gave myself a little bit more color. My flowers are a little bit more purpley here and a little bit more pink here. So just, I mean, that's kind of like, you can have fun with it. I often will go buy just the polyester fabric so I can test things out and see how my colors will look. I did a wedding, some little wedding things one time, and the colors, the pink I needed to get exactly. And so I had a swatch where I just kept doing different colors of pink to see which one would be the right one. Okay, so I'm going to throw this one away, but we'll leave that there, and we can leave it on the overhead, Felicia, and I will do the we'll do the little dog garden flag here. That's our next one. So I'm going to just take the welcome sign, as I mentioned, and we'll find our center of the welcome sign. So we're just going to line that right up. And I'm using the Make Market sublimation paper. It's nice to have that as an option. Okay, I'm thinking I should probably go a little bit closer to that welcome curve there. Let's give that line a little bit more. Okay, so we'll do that. And then I have this adorable little dog and he's right in the center of the paper as well. So we'll just line him up on here. And I don't do it where the ink is because I don't want to put a crease in the ink itself. So we just do it like that. Now I've gone ahead and done a pre-press on this, but I want to make sure that I get that center line. And our settings on the flag, we need to drop our temperature just down to 375. So we'll drop that down to 375. I'm going to do just a quick little press on there to find my center. Takes about 5 or 6 seconds there. This will cool down while we're working. Okay, so I've got my little seam, my center line there. We'll bring that right back. Okay, so I can do my welcome, go there, and then my puppy dog right there. Now I thought maybe it would be fun to have a little bit of a check on the top of the design or maybe on the bottom of the design, just a little bit, along the bottom. I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't know. I think I'm going to leave that part off and just let this, just do the dog part of it. So we'll just put that on. Now you will see that my dog has that little arch there. And if I put this down and put this right over it, I will cover up some of my W and my E there. So I'm just going to use my scissors and we're going to clip in close here around his ears or her ears. I guess it just depends on what kind of doggy you have, if it's a her or him. And you can overlap if you want to. I just don't know that I want to here. So we'll put that like that. And then I've got my cute little welcome will be right there. All right, so we'll turn the welcome over because it is mirrored and you want to have this right down on the edge. Should I put it all the way up there? This is always the tricky part, right? Is figuring out how to line everything up. I'm just going to use that top line and line that up right there. So we'll just put that down. Now, if I come back and add my check at the top or the bottom, I would heat this a second time because my heat press bed isn't big enough to have the whole design in it. So we would just do one press and then come back and do a second press. Okay, so we'll just go like this. Now, why do you need a garden flag? Because everybody needs a cute little garden flag in their garden to welcome people to their garden. You can get the little stake to put this on, or you could just hang it in your garden. This is also if you have a big enough garden where maybe you have a tomato section and a cucumber section, your flag, instead of saying, welcome, you could put cucumbers or tomatoes. You can even, again, get the fabric and make smaller signs that you could just make little flags outside of each of your vegetables that you're growing. You can just put those right down. Okay, so let's come on back over to our heat. We're at 375 and it's going to be 375 for, I think this one's a little bit shorter because of the material. Nope, 60 seconds. All right, so we'll do 375 for 60 seconds. I'm putting my butcher paper down and then my design will fit right on there. It is very close to the edge, so I'm gonna make sure I've got it all on there. Yep, okay. And then I'll put more butcher paper on it. Make sure that's all covered up so we don't have anything coming out. And I'm just gonna slide that right on in there, guys, and we're gonna turn that on. Now, if I wanted to come back and add a little bit of a gingham style to the top of the design, I could. It would even might be cute to like take a scallop design and cut this out with a scallop. So you have like a little fringe scallop on the top. It would be cute. I don't think I have a scallop template. I used to have a little scallop template, or if you want, this is something I've had in my space for a very long time. It's an acrylic ruler that has like a zigzag to it. I could just cut it like that and do a zigzag on it, much like I did on this one, where the design kind of just went off the edge like that. But you can see where I did this one in the 3 different sections. So I had a section here, and then a section here. And I just had a really thin 1/4 inch white line in between that section to make it easier. So if you are piecing your things together, you may just want to use, something that will give you a little crooked line or something. If we have time, I can come back and do that. I'm not sure how, I haven't checked my watch to see how I'm doing on my timing. All right, so let's bring this back over. Ooh, it's a hot one. Now, usually I don't transfer from my heat source to my work surface because, again, you don't want to shift your design and create that ghosting effect. Shifting it right away while the paper is still hot can create that ghosting look. So usually I don't do that. Usually I just will leave that set up right on my work surface. And then I let it cool, and then I'll move my paper. Okay, but since I did, we've got it right here. And we'll just move this over so you can see I did get a bit of the dog on my ghosting there. Not ghosting, that's okay. Oh my gosh, look how cute is that? There's the dog. Oh my gosh. That turned out adorable. All right, I think that will look cute with a little scallop down here of the gingham or something. We may have to, hopefully we'll have time to come back and just add that in there so I can show you all how to do that. But that's how you basically piece your design together. I've got, the welcome sign and then the dog, and it's ready to go. I might go back on the opposite side of this and add another piece of material just on the outside here for making it cute. I could add little pockets that I could hold my garden tools in, or labels or something like that. But how fun is this to have like right at you as people enter your garden? Just a little fun welcome sign. Okay, so that what do you think, Felicia? Did that turn out adorable or what?
It really, really did.
I love it. I love the colors too. The dog just came out really vibrant.
Yes.
Love it. Okay, so let's move on to our little wind spinner. So this, like I mentioned, this is how it looks when it's flat. And when it's done, you will open up the sides and create something that will spin. On this, our temperature needs to be actually, it's even a little bit less, 356. So I'll go ahead and drop my temperature down to 356, but it's for 80 seconds. And for something like this, we don't have to, we won't, what am I thinking? We won't, sorry. Okay, what was I thinking? For something like this, we don't use our lint roller or preheat it because it doesn't have you won't have moisture in it. So when you're working with, say, metal or glass, you will use your alcohol, so rubbing alcohol, and a lint-free cloth. And all you have to do is spray that on there and put that right onto your surface and give yourself a nice clean surface to work on. Now I have printed out this design using the metal setting. So it's set for my metal. Sometimes when you're working with metal, your metal will have like a clear protective sleeve on it that you need to remove. And I had a design to show you all. I had another one of these from a different company, and it has like a little piece of plastic on there. It's like a plastic coating. So when you're working with, see that little plastic piece that just peeled off? When you're working with metal or something like an ornament or something like this, do double check for that coating and make sure it's on there or not on there. It didn't seem to have one on there. I'll find out if we press it and it doesn't press out as well. Now, this design here was already pre-designed for a spinner like this. And this is from a website called Creative Fabrica. And it's all ready to go. So I sprayed my side there. And I'm just going to line this up. You can see I've got, it's like a little notch in the top and the bottom. But I just want to make sure that it's all the way to the edges as best as it can be. There may not always fit perfectly, but this is an 8-inch spinner. So my design is I printed my design at 8 inches, and I'll do the same technique here. I will put the tape on it, especially with something heavy like this. You really don't want this to shift on you while it's working. It's magic. And we'll do one side and then come back and do the other side when it's ready. So let's see, did I do my temperature rate? Oh, let's do 355 for 80 seconds. Okay, so you can see all we're going to do is transfer our design when it's flat. And then after we've transferred our design on both sides, so I have the same design printed on both sides. So we'll just put that on there next and print that one. And then we'll be ready to go. So let's see. Almost there, I'm at 350. While this one is in the cooker, I do have one more design for us to do. This is not this. Oh, there's the garden flag right there. One on the back, remember that it will tell you what the material is. So 100% polyester on our flag, as well as what your settings should be is on the packaging. Okay, I'm going to slide this in using my butcher paper to cover my work surface. So I'll put butcher paper on the bottom and the top. I call this a sublimation sandwich. Your sublimation design always goes on the top. There are certain designs where, like, I think it's glass designs where your design will go on the bottom. But while this one is cooking up, we are going to set up one more design for your gardener and to take out into the garden. And that will be the cooling towel. So as the temperatures heat up, you might want to have a cooling towel to use around your neck to swat off any flies or anything like that. Now, this is a 31-inch by 11-inch piece of polyester. So I have printed out a design that I can put on both ends. And then I did some little bees to work in the middle, sort of as like a little toss. So what I'll do first is I'm going to just kind of trim around my design here with my scissors so I can kind of get an idea of how this is going to fit onto my material and then add my little bees. We'll do the little bees first because those will be in the center. And then we'll come back and do each side of the end. So I'll put those right there. And you can, I don't know if we can see how big this is, how big our little towel is here. We do want to do a preheat on this. So I guess I have to wait a second. I do want to do a preheat on that as well. Okay, so let me move my medallion. And this guy's going to be hot. So I'm going to move the medallion and I'll do a preheat on this. When you're working with metal, it does get really, really heated. So you want to make sure that you're using, you have some gloves to work with. I left my gloves in the other room. So I'm going to just let it cool down because if you touch the metal while it's hot, it can burn your fingers. And we don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. How about that? All right. So that's like if you're using if you're working with any kind of mug or anything like that, you do want to have some sort of protection for your fingers so you don't burn yourself. All right, and I'm just preheating my towel, my neck towel, which I love this idea for a gardener because so many times when I go out and work in my garden, it's hot or I haven't put on enough sunscreen because I think, oh, I'm just gonna go out and pick a few berries or something. And the next thing you know, I've been out there for an hour and my neck is starting to burn. So I do like this idea as having a little something to cover up your neck and keep you cool. This is also a great Mother's Day gift. If you have a mom who happens to be a sports fan and is sitting in the stands when it gets hot. So you can design this up not just for your garden, but for your sports mom too. Just a fun idea. Okay, I'll come back over here and we'll open this up. Oh, this is so cute. Go like this. I want to burn myself. All right. I'm just going to use this to keep my hands off the metal. And we'll just peel that right off. Oops. Dear. Now, I do usually like to have a hot pad waiting to put this on so I don't put it on my surface and damage my surface or anything like that. So you do want to keep that in mind. All right, so I can just remove my tape, set that aside, and we'll flop this guy back. Oh no, we're going to put it on this side of it. Nope, we're going to flop it over. So here we go here. I have my second design ready to go. And I just need to transfer this onto that. Ooh, oh, that looks so good. Okay, so again, we just need to position this. And I want to keep, okay, it's not so hot anymore. There we go. I think this was the top, how I had it last time. So we want to get that lined up the same way. Can you guys see that? That's gonna look so good. So this is the one I just did, and you can see the color transferred over very nicely. We're gonna go ahead and use this one. I'm getting ready in my garden for the 4th of July here. Spinners are great to put in the garden too, because they will keep bigger birds of prey out of the garden. And you can add like little wind chimes to the bottom of them if you want to. They have like little holes on the top and bottom. So we can just add some wind chimes on the bottom. And as the wind goes, it will just breeze that out. All right, so let me go back over to my machine, put in my butcher paper. It will be $3.55 for 80 seconds. You do your sublimation sandwich, butcher paper, your blank, your sublimation, and then your butcher paper on top of that. Okay, now while that is cooking up, while we're cooking up some fun over there, let's go ahead and work on the cooling scarf.
So, Kesley, just
So
in case someone had questions, the butcher paper you're using, did you pre-cut it or is it in a bigger roll?
it came in a package that was pre-cut. So everything was already pre-cut down to 12 inches. And then I just use that, but I do have a big roll of butcher paper that I use, and I do like to pre-cut it down to smaller because it just makes it a little bit easier to work with when you're working in your machine, and you can have it pre-cut and kind of flatten it out a little bit. Okay, so here's our little bee design here. Now, all of my bees I do have going the same way. So I can just kind of play around with those and decide how I want them to go on my paper here. So we can just kind of have fun with these. If you wanted to use a sublimation marker, you could then use a sublimation marker and draw like little little circles and things for your bees to be flying around. But we are just going to go ahead and put these on first. Get some ideas. You can cut these out to be different. You could print them out in different sizes. So you get different size bees. There's little bees I could have cut out here, maybe added some flowers. But I just kind of wanted to give you the idea. Sometimes when you have some material that is bigger than your print, how to work with that. So that's kind of what I wanted to give you guys some ideas on doing that. So I've got those placed, and we'll just put those down with tape to hold that in place. And again, I'll come back and do that part of the design. Now, I don't usually like to press on top of sublimation when I've already pressed it once, but sometimes you just have to do that. You could also, if you wanted to, use like rhinestones and add those little beelines, although that might not feel so good on a cooling neck cloth to have rhinestones around you. But you can use paint, puff paint if you wanted to, or really kind of anything. Okay, so let me, I'm going to move this over. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to grab a pad so I can put my design onto a pad here from the machine. And I may have to adjust my temperature again for my towel because it needs to go to 375. So we'll pump that up to 375. It's so easy to change the settings on any of your heat presses. It just really makes it easy to change those settings. Okay, so we'll do another piece of butcher paper, and then I'll pick up my design here, and I've got everything taped so I don't have to, I'm not worried about anything, moving out of the way or anything. I'm just going to double check my placement and make sure everything is within range of the top of my design. By that, I mean, like it will, I didn't spread it out too big. I want to make sure it fits on my pad here. So I'm just going to move this one in a little bit if you need to. Okay, so we'll just pop those in. That's going to move that around a little bit more, give myself a little space. Now, I do also use, since you were asking about the butcher paper, sometimes I will use just copy paper. And if it's a smaller piece and I don't need a big piece of butcher paper, you can use copy paper as a blowout, which I always think that's kind of fun if you don't have butcher paper handy. But you can also just use your roll of butcher paper, and you would grab your scissors and just figure out how big you need your butcher paper to be, and just trim that right down on your roll. I think Make Market and Cricut both sell packs of butcher paper, which are pre-cut down to the 12 by 12 size. So just keep your eyes out for those. All right, so this, although I don't need 80 seconds on these, I think I just needed a minute, 60 seconds. So let's adjust my timer down. 60 seconds on that. Okay, and we'll do this first little layer here. That when the butcher paper is on the roll, you do kind of have to hold it down a little bit. All right, let's do our spinner, the big reveal. You want to go back to the overhead? All right, here we go. This was side 2. Oops. So you can see I did do this twice, and this is the back side. This is our first side that we did. Everything looks so great. Just take that right off there. Oh, here's the second side. And then what you're going to do once you have it done, as I was mentioning, the sides will fold out. So you can kind of just start playing with them as to how much you need to push them out. I like to do this when it's a little bit warm because it does make it easier a little bit. Okay, so we'll just come on. There we go. And then look at that, how that is. So then we'll do the same thing on this other side. Just pull this up. And then we're just going to pull these up. And I do have one of these that I have kept outside all season. So they really do, the colors do not fade. And by all season, I mean, I made it last year and it's been out in my garden all winter. And the colors don't fade. I was there this weekend, out in the garden this weekend, prepping my beds. All right, so that's the top of it. And it comes with hardware. Where did I put my hardware? You have a little piece of hardware here that we're going to put. All right, there we go. So here's our little hardware, and we'll just put that right in the top or the bottom. Now you do have a hole on the bottom and a hole on the top, so you can choose which one you want. I think I'll put the blue on the top. And I love that because then you can add more to it if you want to. Okay, Felicia, if you want to go back to the front, we'll give this a spin. So here it is. And then as it spins in the wind, isn't that so cool? So as I mentioned, you can add charms to the bottom of it. You can put multiples on top of each other and you just set it outside and it will just spin away. And it looks, I don't know if we can, if it looks as cool on here as it does in real life, but it just turns out so neat in the garden and to see it. Okay, so let's finish up.
Yes, Lee.
You like it? Let me finish up our last piece here, our neck one, our cooling neck cloth. And bring that right over. And oh, look at that. Okay, so these are my good ones. These are ones I'm taking off. Just remove these. So I just wanted to have a design that would go the full length of my piece. And then we're just going to add the bottom design onto the bottom. Now, if I want or need to, feel the need to, I could add another bee onto it here if I wanted to have more bees up on the top. I want to do one more right there. I don't think so. I think I kind of like that little bit of space there. So again, we'll just tape it down here and here. And I'll go ahead. Yeah, I'm not gonna, you know what, I was gonna go ahead and position the other side, but I think I'll wait until I get it out of the machine so that I have a good positioning on it. Maybe I'll just show you how I do that without bringing it over to the overhead. But I can now go make my sublimation sandwich back up onto the printer. Onto my heat press. And so you just do your butcher paper first. You want to make sure you have your butcher papers down. And then your design goes on top of it. My little tag sticking out there. Just want to make sure everything's smooth. Okay. Now, if I were worried, because some of my bees are going to be in there, they will be in there, I'll just fold over a piece of butcher paper there and add a little bit of layer right onto that. And my butcher paper goes here. We'll just give that a close and we're ready to go. So again, that'll just go for 60 seconds. You make that sublimation sandwich with your butcher paper, your blank, your print out, and more butcher paper. For the bee design, I did, I cut, because I went into Photoshop. I used Photoshop and just copied out this bee and then made a whole bunch of little bees to print off of that. When I did that, as I mentioned earlier, you can go into any program and send to printer and print to your Sawgrass print utility. So when you do that, you could be in your, let's say if you use a Cricut or a Silhouette or a Caesar machine and you design something in there that you want to print out, you can print it right from those from those software into the Sawgrass print utility. Now, when you do Cricut, it will add the cut edges because it's expecting you to cut, but I don't think Silhouette or Caesar add the cut edges. So now that that's done, I will do the other side and, oh, this is hot. Let's just put that over there. This time I'll show you how you can just do your design right on your surface. So right into my press, I have my design right here. I'm going to grab that. Now, again, I do like to do my, I do prefer to tape this down so I don't get any ghosting or shifting. So we're going to take a test here and make sure it doesn't go shift on us. And if it does, you'll see why we do that. Okay, so let me just grab this. I want to make sure this isn't going to get caught. Okay, here we go. Something's in there. Oh, a little piece of butcher paper stuck in there. All right, so I'm going to just hold this up so it doesn't get caught. And then we'll put that right in there. Now, if you don't have a sublimation printer, you can certainly use your Silhouette, your Caesar, your Juliet, cut out your iron-on vinyl for any of the designs except for this one. This one definitely needs the sublimation, but you could make a sign like this. The difference is you wouldn't have so much detail in your printout. So to get the different texture of the image, you do need to have the sublimation printer, and that's where it really sets you apart from other types of techniques. You can use a product called from Caesar. It's like a sublimation. Well, no, then you still need to print it. You can use like heat transfer, printable heat transfer vinyl, and print that out and then cut that out on your machine to kind of get the same effect without using sublimation. But honestly, the sublimation makes everything so easy. Okay, so this one I didn't tape this down. So let's just see how this goes. I'm going to peel it off. Ooh, oh my gosh, you guys, how cute. So there's one side, and there's my other side here. Matches my outfit today. And all together. Oh, this is adorable. Now, I will point out one little area that I caught. You may not be able to see it, but this little bumblebee, when I repressed the second bottom part, this had a wrinkle in it and my fabric was there. So I did transfer some of that design onto that fabric. But overall, I think this is a big success. Again, how great is this to go out in the garden and have that right around your neck? Or like I mentioned, if you are doing Mother's Day gifts and you need to do that mom sitting in the stands, cheering on her kid, you could make one of these, put their child's face on it or something like that in the school colors. And then when something good happens, she can always take this out and, cheer on her kid. So lots of fun ways you could use the cooling neck cloth for your gardener, for yourself if you're out in the garden, or for those sports fans. You've got your welcome to my garden sign that you can make, your spinners that you can do, and your waffle towel for washing your hands after you've been out in the garden or collecting your garden goodies. So guys, I thank you so much for joining me. I hope this gives you a lot of inspiration. We do have more sublimation videos on the Michael's YouTube channel, so be sure to check those out with lots of ideas and different ways that you can use that. If you have any questions, please do direct those to Sawgrass. They are great customer service, and they'll get you going on your sublimation journey. Thank you so much for hosting us today, Felicia. I hope everyone has a fantastic week and you get everything planted. I see some of you raise their hand. Do you want to answer that last question before we go out? Or maybe they didn't.
I see they put their hands down. I don't know if that was a goodbye or
Okay.
anything like that. I don't know, but they did put their
All
hand
right.
down.
I didn't want anybody to miss out on a question.
Yes. Well, thank you, Kesley, and I hope everyone have a great rest of their day.
Thanks, Felicia.